If I had understood this very simple concept from Alex Hormozi when I started my company, I would have saved so much time and the business would have grown a lot faster. When I walked into acquisition.com headquarters, I was thinking like a startup founder, but I left thinking like a CEO. The biggest takeaway I got from Alex and Leila Hormozi's conference about business building is deceptively simple. But stick with me, because if you master this, you will have a foundation that supports much faster growth. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Bailey. I went from being a college student with a crazy idea to building a venture-backed startup and landing on Forbes 30 Under 30. In this video, I'm walking through the basics of constraint theory and how it helped accelerate or slow down building my company, and what I wish I'd known earlier about hypergrowth and building the right team. Alex's idea is this: businesses only grow up to their constraint and then no further. A constraint is the one part of your business that limits your growth. It could be your sales process, your product development, your own time, or even hiring. Think of your company like a funnel. A constraint is the narrowest part. You can pour in more leads, more money, more effort, but your output doesn't actually change. Here's an example. Let's say your company sells birdhouses and you have a 3-step process. You build the houses, you paint them, and you decorate them. If painting takes the longest, that is your constraint. You can hire more people to build or to decorate, but it won't actually increase your output because everything is still waiting on literal paint to dry. The only way to grow is to solve for that constraint. After Alex went over constraint theory, he said something that felt pretty radical to me, which is that the only way to fully solve a constraint is to hire someone who is an expert at that thing. At first, I really didn't like this because for years, I've looked at the constraints of my business and asked myself how I could solve them personally, instead of hiring someone else. One of the reasons I make so much content about how to work smarter, not harder, is actually because my default setting is just to work harder. But that leads to taking on way too much and not directing enough time and energy to solving the constraint that matters most. Not to mention, it can take years to develop the expertise that someone else already has and would love to bring to the table. Now, if you're an early stage founder and anything like me, you might be thinking, how do I bring people on if I don't have the money to hire them? And honestly, that's the most important thing to get right when building a team. Even before you've raised a single dollar or sold a product, you can start identifying your strengths and weaknesses, because those weaknesses will become the constraints of your business if you don't hire someone to solve them. Which means your top priority is to build the right team to solve them. Sometimes that means a full-time hire. Sometimes it's a contractor, an advisor, or in the early days, possibly even a co-founder. But scaling starts with solving the constraint, not working around it. Back when Perimeter was just an idea and I hadn't raised any money, the biggest constraint was clear. I needed someone talented enough to build the first version of the platform. If you want to know more about how I hired that team while I was still a student, I have a video linked below. But once I found my co-founder and we raised some money, the constraint shifted to other areas. As sales picked up, we didn't need more leads, we needed someone dedicated to onboarding and supporting new customers. That became the constraint. Once that person was in place, the constraint moved again, back to sales. We then needed someone who could own messaging and outreach, so I wasn't splitting my time across every deal. Every time I hired to solve one of these constraints, it's freed me up to focus on the thing that the team needs me uniquely working on. This is how I started thinking less like a scrappy founder and more like a strategic CEO. That means consistently finding the thing that's slowing us down and figuring out how to unblock it so that you can sell more birdhouses to people or whatever that is for you. And the best part is you don't need a team of 20 people to start thinking this way. In fact, the earlier you start, the easier it is to build a company that is designed to scale. So if you're not making progress at the speed you want to be, ask yourself, what's the real constraint right now? And what would it look like to solve just that? Consider subscribing if this was helpful, and if you're looking for more startup lessons from the trenches, YouTube thinks you might like this video over here. And if you want me to do a separate breakdown of Alex Hormozi's books, $100 Million Offers or $100 Million Leads, let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next Thursday.